Good morning, everyone. So, as I said that when I was entering, and I thought I'll share this little thing that happened to set the tone for the talk. Brother Vladimir asked me that, do you want to stand there? So, a line of John Milton flashed in my mind. They too serve who stand and wait. Not only they who stand and talk, but they who stand and wait. And this line flashed across as one of the perfect examples of what really effort means. And to take another example, so a few examples to start with. So we were about to start the talk, and Vladimir was trying all methods up his sleeve, from raising the syllable note of Om sound levels so that everything is quiet. Now, quiet, is it effort? Sounds very paradoxical to just be quiet. But if you are not quiet, how do we receive the voice? Shall I say the voice of God? There is a beautiful line in Savitri. This light comes not by struggle or by thought. In the mind's silence, the transcendent acts, and the hushed heart hears the unuttered word. When we use the word effort, this is what is always good to remember. Effort is not about straining oneself. So when we use the word concentration, it's like we are straining, we must sit and all stifled up. It's just the contrary. Because when we strain ourselves, we put in what is called as egoism in the effort. That's how the mother describes in one of her prayers. And this egoism in the effort itself veils the divine presence, which is anyways there. So people often ask this, how do we find the divine? Well, it's a paradox, because that which is all the time present in everyone, everything, in every element of creation. So what do we have to do? There are veils which veil us. And the biggest veil is the veil of the ego. The sense that I am there, I am so important to myself, I am so important even to God. So we expect the whole machinery of the universe and the divine and all the gods and everybody in the family and universe to act to satisfy my desire, demand, wishes. If we look at it, how absurd this is, and yet all our efforts go towards strengthening this illusion. It cannot be true. Just imagine that, if the whole universe is created only to fulfill my wishes, and God also is like a genie in the bottle to fulfill my wishes. So when we use the word effort, it implies many things. So immediately we think effort means what do I do? In terms of how do I meditate? The first thing that comes to everybody's mind is meditation. And I often give this example that the perfect example of what really effort can be in everyday life is the Gita. So Shubhendu speaks about it in his Bengali writings, that the Gita is not given in a hermitage. The setting is very interesting. It's not given in the hermitage. It is given in the middle of the battle, during a moment of crisis. And what really happens in that moment of crisis is very interesting, and it connects with how we, all the time Arjun has been with Krishna, and he regards him as his friend. He has spoken things to him, and Krishna has also responded like a friend. Suddenly he realizes that he's my friend, but he is there with me, and there is something which is so mysterious, and probably he has an answer and solution to all my issues. And there he turns to him and says, Shishyasteham sadhimam. This is the act, meaning thereby I accept me as a disciple. I bow down, surrender to you as a disciple. So people often ask that, how do I know that Shobhindo, I'm talking in this context, has accepted me as a disciple, if the thought and the feeling and the urge and the aspiration has occurred, it itself is a sign that there is an acceptance, because it cannot happen otherwise. Normally we think it's me who tries, then divine responds. This is how people... But actually it's the other way around. First, the divine has chosen, picked up, and a time comes when we become aware of it. And that's how we see the Gita starts in a grand way, that Arjuna has been chosen since a long time, since this, way beyond this life. But Arjuna doesn't know. He realizes that he has been chosen on the battlefield of Kurukshetra in a moment of crisis. So it's not, this whole thing should be reversed. It's not that we are putting an effort, therefore God will respond. Because this is how our tendency is. Our tendency is when somebody does something to us, then we should respond. But that's not how the divine operates. He responds when the time has come. He picks us up, and that's why we see now today, for example, we have so many of us coming from different places. It's because somewhere he has called, he has picked up, and we may not realize it. But a time comes when we realize it and we begin to think that I should also do something. Two more examples. After all, in the morning we were reading that it is the divine Shakti that accomplishes everything. So what is the role of effort? So two more examples. I'm picking up from Indian homes. Maybe very much the same everywhere. So moms like to cook for their child. So when they are cooking and the child comes and he is, he wants nowadays, Mom, I want Maggi noodles. It's like a big pain, trauma to the mother's heart. Everybody talks about trauma to the child. For a change, trauma to the mother. She has spent time preparing delicious food, nutritious food, healthy food, and suddenly he says, I want Maggi. So it's a big letdown for the mother. She holds her breath. And why? Because he wants something quick. And what is quick is Maggi. But the mother knows that this may be quick, but not necessarily good. So many times things that give us instant results, we should be a little wary of that. Divine does not deal with that kind of an ATM card swipe and you get money you have put in. Sometimes he takes away your ATM card and says, don't worry, I am your ATM card. So what does the mother say? She says, you wait or you play. The child is sent out, he's playing games. And then he comes back and mother says, you take your bath or you wash your feet. I'm talking of way back, beautiful Indian household that goes back in my memory, that you go take your bath and then come back and you sit, and then by the time you come, food is ready. So what was all this paraphernalia about? It was so that I can enjoy that delicious dish that has been prepared out of love. It's not a dish. For us, it's food. But for the divine, it's love. So she had poured her heart into that dish and she is offering us that. But to receive that love, there must be a readiness. That's how the mother speaks is there in volume 10, where she says something very interesting. There is an aphorism of Sri Aurobindo that, one of the ways of curing evil is not to look at it, but look at the goodness, the beauty, and whatever is beautiful side of things. So the disciple asks that how can we cure it if we do that? And she gives a long commentary based on how Buddhist thought operates. Raj Yoga also is like that. And toward the later part, she says, this way we don't have to bring in that element of love. But if you ask me which is the power that transforms, it is love. And then she speaks about the difference between purification and the power of love. She says the power of purity dissolves and then creates. But love transforms without dissolving. She uses the word, it's like a leaven that changes you from inside. Love transforms without really the need. That's how she has brought this love, so that there is no more pralaya, no more that dissolution. That is the power of love. And then she says, but however, Sri Aurobindo says that there must be a certain degree of readiness in man to receive it. Because if he is not ready and he receives this love, that's why psychologists often debate how much love to be given to a child. Give love, it will not do any harm, as a psychiatrist, okay? Fine. But you can never give enough of love. Only thing is that quality should be correct. That's what is important. So she says there has to be readiness in mankind, because if it's not ready, you see, I have seen, I'm sure everybody knows, it has happened in the people who were very close to mother. So I have seen two kinds of people. One who became very humble. And when people went to them that, oh, you were so great, and you were so close, they say, we know who is great. And they became so humble because they were touched by infinity. And they felt so humbled by that experience, by that contact of the Divine Mother, that they could keep their head in the right place, in the shoulders, and their heart in the right place. But there was another kind, which also we have met. It happens to people, it's not about good or bad, who took it into their head and took it that, oh, we have received the touch of infinity. We are no ordinary mortals. So you see, if one is not ready to receive that touch, it may be very even dangerous. So the divine, the whole preparation and effort is to prepare to receive that. So this was one example. Second example is of a father who is a very rich, super rich dad. And he, a wise dad doesn't just pass on the kingdom to the son. So we have this story in Mahabharata. I'll touch from there. So we all know that the Pandava brothers, they suffer at the hands of Duryodhana, and they have lost the game of dice very unfairly. It's very clearly deceitful, and they are banished for 13 years to the forest. And guess who is their friend? The embodied divine, Krishna. So he is supposed to rescue them all time. So, but he doesn't do anything. They go to the forest, and then, after 13 years they come back. And leaving aside many reasons why he does not intervene. There are historical reasons, there are psychological reasons. But one other thing is that he is preparing Yudhishthir to one day inherit not the crown of thorns, but the crown of dharma. That he must govern the kingdom, and he must be so impeccable in dharma that he cannot, there is no scope of making mistakes once he ascends to the throne. So he must prepare himself through very hard sacrifice and toil. All this was decided that one day they are going to take the throne, and Shri Krishna reveals that to Arjuna. But yet they must go through that process, because they must deserve, he must deserve, be ready, so that when he is sitting on the throne, he should be able to be the rightful God of dharma that he is, and conduct the affairs properly. So a lot of effort is precisely so that we are ready to receive the divine. So when we understand it, like he can give us, there is no doubt about it. And there are so many instances and examples that his touch can completely, conversions which Sri Aurobindo says are scandalous in the spiritual history of mankind. We have the story of Ratnakar changing into Valmiki, and Jagai and Madhai in Indian mystic thought by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Angulimal into Anand, and Saul of Tarsus by the touch of Christ. But why they won't do it instantly to anyone and everyone? So this is the reason that, the divine is capable of doing. If he cannot do that, then obviously omnipotence is. But are we ready to receive it? That is the touch. There is a line in Savitri, she bore the touch of that slays and saves. So it slays the ego. Are we ready for that? So this is why the effort is to receive the divine. And we can take beautiful ways of looking at it, that if actually Mother and Sri Aurobindo are here, so I can't use that example, but let's say that before the conference started, we are inviting them. Mother, come to the conference, be here while we are. How would our conduct be? How would we do things? What will be the degree of joy that we will experience physically? They are going to come, be seated here, right there. How would we be in everything? And we'll see that from that point, things begin to change within us. So what was the ultimate rule in the ashram? People, Sri Aurobindo was not in favor of rule. He gave a lot of freedom. So why he could give so much freedom? The logic is only one, that only the Supreme can give infinite freedom, because he knows that he calls the last shot. So there are several stories about it. But anyways, so this freedom could be given by Sri Aurobindo and the mother, because they knew that how ultimately from within they held the key from inside. So this kind of a preparation, that when the divine has to come, how I should be to receive. So people often say that why purification is necessary. It is true that the divine touch will purify. But if you can make an immediate, some clearing to receive, how much more better, because when the divine comes, all the elements which are gathered inside, how they are going to react, we don't know, because the pressure and touch of the divine not only opens the doors of ascension, it opens the subconscious den, because they too seek, after all. After all, when the divine comes, it's not only the human in us, but the animal in us, the Rakshasa in us, the Asura in us. Everybody says we too have a chance. You have this line of Narad as he descends, and as he sang, the demons wept with joy, because they knew that they have long suffered and endured and labored, and their end is coming near. So they too are going to wake up. So if we can do an initial clearing, otherwise it can be very disorienting. So this effort in yoga has to be understood as the ways and means to receive the contact of the divine. People often say that why doesn't he reveal himself? Well, even to look at the sun for 10 minutes, footnote, please do it at your own risk, is difficult enough. Imagine coming in contact with that, out of which millions of universes spring. So once we understand the enormity and the tremendous nature of the task that Sri Aurobindo and the mother have undertaken, then we understand why he speaks of effort. What is this effort about? So this effort operates at several levels. One is, of course, the physical effort. The second is psychological effort. And the third is the spiritual effort. It's the one which is going on behind. So physical effort, we all know, it's a very interesting thing. It's not the physical effort, but the reason why one is doing it is important. So once Draupadi says this to Krishna, that I know that every time one comes to meet the divine, there is the result that comes is of 1,000 Ashwamedh Yagyas. Now, of course, it looks, this is all another mythological story. But look at it this way. When we go all the way, I'm putting it in one way, to the Sri Aurobindo ashram, to, bow down at the Samadhi. So people say this, he is inside, why do you need to go? Very true. But poor body must participate in the yoga. When it does that, it is ready to receive through the journey, and one forgets everything the moment one reaches there. Example of so many people. But then if one cannot do for some reason, well, serve the divine. This is the effort of the body through which we come in contact. So initially the divine draws us indirectly. Somewhere we hear a word, somewhere something from some place, sometimes decades back. But for the rest there is a slow preparation going on. And then a time comes when suddenly a veil is rent, and what was right in front of us, that becomes evident. One of the things that I remember from my medical college days was, there was a friend of mine, and with whom we would walk together every evening for 2 years, and we were discussing all about what we thought were high things, all about divine, everything, vegetarianism, we must logically discuss atoms and divine and everything. So 2 years we used to, he too became a psychiatrist. I think we all become a little crazy, seeking, or we have to be a little crazy to follow after the divine. Better to be crazy that way than sanity of the kind that we endorse all the time. But nevertheless, so the strange part was that many years passed, and later on he's also in the US now, and But before he came here, I went to visit him. To cut a long story short, he gifted me the secret of the Vedas. And I was so touched. I said, oh my God. Because then I had purchased this synthesis of yoga and things were beginning to happen. So I said, I didn't know that, you have been reading Sri Aurobindo. He said, all the time. I said, come on, you never told me about it. He said, yeah, you never saw, you never asked. And then he told me that even mother's blessing packet used to be there. See, this preparation is so important. And the divine knows when we are ready. First visit to Pondicherry, and I went to see the ashram, and I didn't know that there is an ashram and there is an Auroville. I was living in that extreme wideness, and of course, even now. So as I got down from the bus, me and my wife, the auto rickshaw came and said, Auroville, we heard the word Oro. And for us, yes, that's it. And on top of it, he says, Matri Mandir. There must be a mandir. For an Indian, you say mandir, matlab that's the place. So we go to Auroville. There is no mandir. We don't see anything there. And a Frenchman comes and takes us to breakfast. And we have stayed for 2 days, loved it, and came back. And I thought we have gone to the ashram. And imagine why I couldn't go to the Samadhi, even though I went up to Nehru Street. Those of you who know, Auroville Boutique is there, as close as there, I didn't go. Now later on I realized, because I had these crazy ideas in the mind, nobody you should worship. What is this? People make tombs for the dead and they have these pictures. I was all that, liberal thinking. So Divine said, don't worry, I'll conceal myself. I'll come to you the way you want to connect with me. So people told me later on, I came to know that I missed something called the ashram, but I thought I haven't missed nothing. What is there? This is a samadhi. I said, oh, that's okay. Anyways, I'm glad I didn't go. It's fine. And next time when I went, I said, what a fool I am. My rational mind had made a fool of myself, because the moment I touched, I realized what I have missed. So this I'm recounting that many in life, when we look back, as we were reading today, we see that even there is a kind of, he makes us do the effort, but even he's directing the effort. So it is he who ensured that the auto rickshaw came and took me all the way to Auroville, whereas my effort, the direction of my effort was ashram. And it was all changed because, that's the readiness. So we need to have this background of this divine working and carrying us through in many, many ways. So there is the physical effort where the very body is involved. But this effort, what is going on inside in our psychological being is what really counts. One may live in the ashram, so we have now the other side. For all one's life. But it may only feed the ego that I am somebody from the elite club, a member of the elite group, somebody very special. So it's the physical, but behind it is the psychological. Psychological means what is my motive, attitude, all this I need to constantly keep on reorienting, correcting, and life gives us so many opportunities. The mother speaks about this in one of her prayers, early prayers. So she says the number of hours of contemplation should always be balanced with the hours when we are dealing with everyday life, because that's where yoga is taking place, when we are off guard. So when we are sitting in contemplation, we have closed our eyes or whatever, and then we are meditating and it's all wonderful. And then somebody comes and says, this is not how you meditate, and suddenly, oh, you want to teach me how to meditate. So I have lost it. So, many such things happen. I have seen people come out very angry. Someone had asked the mother that, mother, he meditates so much, but he is so angry when he comes out of it. She says, yes, it has not changed anything in him. She said that it's not about the number of hours we spend in meditation. She speaks about it. It is the attitude with which we go through life. So when we deal with everyday life, the divine is at the center. So that's what I was talking about, the rule that Sri Aurobindo gave. And it was a very beautiful golden rule. And I think if we can just make an effort to keep that in our head and heart, and our consciousness, life would change. And the rule that was given in the ashram, the one and only rule, that too, after people asked, because Sri Aurobindo used to deal very differently. His way, I mean, imagine Amrita coming for 1 year. I'm putting the rule on pause. So Amrita coming for 1 year, and he was a 15-year-old lad who would talk to Sri Aurobindo in Tamil for 1 hour, and Sri Aurobindo, who hardly knew Tamil, he knew Tamil, but not like a fluent speech. And Amrita didn't know anything about English. So Sri Aurobindo, with his impeccable English, time to time will say, yeah, something, yes. And then after 1 year, he says, I don't know. He would allow me for 1 hour, I'll talk to him, and I don't know. Why did he allow me? Because he used to tell him all about his school problems and all the problems in his house. Now, sometimes we may say, what has that got to do with spiritual life? People often ask. Well, spiritual life is about growing in union with the divine, and the union starts with contact. It doesn't matter where we are, whichever point of contact. If the contact starts with this, that I am burdened with life's worries, and I speak to the divine, speak. So people often ask the next question, will he answer? I said, yes, but you may not like his answer. That's a different story. He may solve the problem, he may not solve the problem. If he thinks which is better. Sri Aurobindo says that all prayers are heard, but not all are answered the way I would want it to be. And then he says, why should they? Is God an automaton? That you put, $2 and you get a Coke bottle instantly. He may not. You may put 10 times and he may not. Why? Because he knows now that this is the fellow, I have caught him. So this contact with the divine is the effort. And this contact initially takes place in many ways. We spoke about reading the books as a contact. Remembering the divine is a contact. Prayer is a contact. It's something very unique and beautiful to human beings. I fancy that. Sometimes when I look at animals, I feel they are also praying. The dumb prayer of four-footed things. Sometimes when you look at a plant, trees, especially in the evening, there is this feeling that they are praying. But human beings have this exceptional privilege. Among the many privileges that we have, one of the privileges that we can pray. And so Sri Aurobindo says there are religious ways that man has found of contact with the divine. And it's something so beautiful, a prayer which rises from the heart, a prayer that is written. It doesn't matter. It's not about whether that prayer is being answered or not. But I have put myself in contact with the divine. Now, the mother, knowing this, gave so many other things just to come in contact with them. Morning we were talking about aids. And when we speak about aids, we speak about the inner aids. But out of compassion, outer aids. Photographs. We think they're just photographs. Somebody asked Sri Aurobindo that I'm staying far away in Mumbai, and when I look at your photographs and the mothers, is it okay if I concentrate on them? Is it? He says, yes, it's very much helpful for the yoga. Just imagine, and something of the mother is there in her photographs. These are mother and Sri Aurobindo's words and the mother's words. So, what is a photograph? It's an external aid. I know people who just simply looking at the picture of the mother's eyes was their first contact. So when we try to look at things this way, then there are so many ways that the divine speaks to us and wants to come near us, if we know how to listen. So photographs, mother's music, Savitri, her reading of Savitri, the object she has touched, we don't realize it's something she has given. See, when we go to somebody's home, everywhere, it's a part of our, not just custom and tradition, but we bring something and we receive something. So she also, when she gives, it's something very beautiful. It's a touch, concrete touch. So all these things, which are part of the aids, and there, look at here, the beauty is that the divine is reaching out to us. It's not we are who are trying to reach out. Divine is reaching out to us just to play her music, Sunita's music. So beautiful. It's an effort because we have to go and switch on the tape recorder, or at least, with the remote we have to probably sit. But yeah, it's an effort. But just imagine how rewarding this can be. I can tell you from direct experience. Just listening to Savitri music by Sunilda, just letting it play in the environment. So there is an effort to come in contact with the divine. Then there is the effort to receive the divine. For instance, knowledge of the divine. So, of course, the books are there. But just reading books is not enough. books help us, but the mind should be ready to receive. And what does the mother advise when we read Sri Aurobindo's books? She says, read a little at a time, read every day. Do not try to understand. Now that becomes very difficult for us as human beings. We want to read with a dictionary by our side. And she says, why she says, do not try to understand? She says, receive it in quietude, and the words will do the work of transformation and create new brain cells if necessary for the understanding. These words are too powerful. They do the work of transformation. She is not using transformation in a generic way. The brain cells, it will create new brain cells. I think that time people didn't believe that the neurons can continue to grow. It's a much later thing. When I learnt about it, I was so happy. See, she knew it long back, that the dendrites can continue to grow and create more and more complex neurons. Because when I was studying MBBS, it was said, no. Once a neuron is formed, that's the end of the story. But she said, it'll create new brain cells necessary for understanding. So normally we think reading is not an effort. It is an effort. It requires conscious choice. We take out time and we sit down and read in quietude. And then she says, don't let the mind get into all kinds of discussions for the moment. Receive it in quietude, because what is being given is something so vast, so profound. When we try to analyze it with the surface mind, we are likely to miss the point. So it's very good to read and let the understanding emerge. It's true of all works of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. And all this I can recount with numerous examples. So I'm not getting into that because that's a whole journey. So the effort to receive the divine. Then to get the mind freed. So this effort has two sides, negative and the positive side. Negative is to free the clutter, clear the clutter, as they say. So once after a long talk on Sri Aurobindo, someone asked me, sir, which school of Vedanta Sri Aurobindo is about? So I said, he has gone beyond schools. So please don't fit him into a school of Vedanta. Then is it Tantra? I said, can we get rid of all this business of Vedanta and Tantra? Okay, I know that there are schools of Vedanta. So Sri Aurobindo once made a remark about the life divine. He said, well, if you want to put it, you can say it is realistic Advaita. Try to figure out what it means. So basically our mind is full of preconceived ideas, notions. If God is there, it means this. If divine is there, it means this, that. So many notions, ideas. He has a penchant of acting in utter liberty, and that's something so beautiful about the divine, that it doesn't fall into a standard format or formula that we may construct for him. We may go to a church, a temple, and of course I don't even need to mention a mosque, and we don't find him. But he may suddenly catch us in the middle of a battlefield and say, here I am, come, let's play war, battle together. So we have this preconceived idea as Arjun had, but sir, you are a pacifist, I believe, you are all peace, shanti mein, how can you create war? No sir, I'll follow Gandhiji and all these thoughts. And he may say, well, hold on. I do what I will, and what I will is what I have seen, and what I have seen and will, that I create. Are you ready or not ready? You tell only this much. Don't try to impose your notions on me. Look at the way the Gita starts. In one go, all the notions, preconceived ideas of what divine is, what he can do, what he cannot do, how he should behave. Even we have fixed standards of conduct. Rama and Krishna are not divine because they have not behaved according to our human standards. Even some people say Christ should have vanished, done some magic. How do we understand the ways of the divine with all these notions? So that's why people who live with strong moral, ethical notions, they are good as they are at a certain stage of evolution, cannot understand the ways of the divine. When, as Sri Aurobindo says in one of his aphorisms, in that story of gopis and dresses, he says that some people see in it the sublime mystic love where you abandon everything in front of the divine. Others see in it nothing but flirtatiousness. And he says people bring what they have within onto the divine. So this clearing the mind, this is the negative side of the effort. Just to be quiet and sit. This is one of the I think it is the smallest prayer in prayers and meditation. And the moments passed toward the silence of eternity, or something like this. To sit at thy feet in silence is worth centuries of felicity. It's not an exaggeration. With the Divine Mother, her own experience when she sat at the feet of Sri Aurobindo, all these constructions went away. To just sit at the feet of the Divine, to just think for a moment that, Sri Aurobindo and the Mother's feet are here, and we just sit at those feet. So what is it? It's a practice. Some people would say it's imagination, but even imagination opens the door. That's beautiful. Thought opens the door, feelings, heart opens the door. So when we keep the mind quiet and receptive, how to make it quiet? There also the Mother would tell us that simply by the contact of the Divine it becomes quiet. The mind is hushed to a luminous omniscience. So these are ways and means to come in contact and receive the Divine. The heart must be ready to receive the Divine. So all our heart strings are tied in 100 directions. So of course we are not asked to cut those strings ruthlessly like a merciless person, but to transmute them into strings of gold. There is a line in Savitri, all were joined to all by golden links. And this is a perfect example. I mean, every year, for me, I'm sure for many of us, we meet after an year. And there's such a joy. There's never a feeling कि बिछड़ के कब से मिल रहे हैं. As if, we were separated. There's such a spontaneous instant joy. A feeling of being always connected together. And then when we go away, it's not like we are missing something externally. Because there is a deep connect which is joined. Whereas look at the other kind of meetings which we have where, oh my God, I am going to meet for such a long time. Then there is sorrow, suffering, all kinds of things. So this deeper bond with which we can connect with the whole creation, with those who are in our, often people ask that, can I pray for those who are near and dear to me, husband, wife, child, friends? Why not? We want the whole earth to wake up to the divine glory. Why not those? They have been brought in contact with us for some reason, we don't know why. There is some logic operating behind it. And now that people are there in our life, we might as well, everything we offer. But what we should not do is try to convert them. This is the most dangerous business, converting people. God doesn't deal with it. So this is man's creation. Leave them free, but at the same time to make an offering of everything that enters our consciousness. Offering all into that sacred fire with the will to purify. There is a beautiful prayer in the Upanishad which speaks about, every day we pray for everyone and everything. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya. Every morning we can pray for everybody, we can pray. It's an effort, but it makes us wide. Every morning when we pray for everything, look at some of the mother's prayers. She speaks about the earth waking up to a sublime glory. So when we pray like that, when we try to bring everything in contact with the divine by an offering, and such people are required, it may sound very strange. Imagine if there are some people in this world, or at least in America, or in a place like Greenville or wherever we are staying, who are praying for all the inhabitants and creatures that they come in contact with the divine. What would it mean? The mother prays for creatures of the sea when she is traveling on the ocean, for the creatures, inhabitants of the sea, for those who are on the board, for those who dwell in the house. This is the wideness of the heart. We are not leaving this for that, but we are turning everything towards that great divine consummation. So this is the way the heart gets ready to receive the divine. And then life must be ready. And this life is all the time busy like a monkey. jumping from one object to another. Watch the discussion going on a table for 10 minutes. So it will start from I don't know what it would start with, something. How's the weather today? It will end up with people fighting over politics. This person should be there or that candidate should be there. Now, our life is like that. It is distracted, gone into so many directions. And if only we could gather the entire life and say, whatever it is, let the divine will be done. We don't know, we don't understand with our own limited mind. It should be this or it should be that. But may the divine will be fulfilled. So when does that happen? When this monkey mind, there are so many things which have been spoken about the monkey mind, but I have my own take on it. And Swami Vivekananda speaks about the mind like a monkey sitting on a pole on a boat which is in rocky waters laden by storms. So the state of that monkey is the state of the human mind. So he recommends meditation. But meditation is difficult, so I have a simple take. I mean, it's not difficult. I have a very simple take. My take is turn the monkey into servant of the Lord. So what does he become? He becomes Hanuman. That is the difference. The same monkey, restless, energetic, when he turns into the service of the divine, he becomes Hanuman. That is the difference, So this is where we have to turn this life energy into serving the divine. How do we do it? It doesn't mean that we only in one particular, when we are giving a talk on Sri Aurobindo, we are serving the divine. We must remember, they too serve who stand and wait. When we are listening to a boring talk and quietly remembering him, maybe give this speaker some sadbuddhi, then also we are serving the divine. Even when everyday work that we are doing, if we do it with this idea, this to be the idea behind it, it is service to the divine. Imagine cooking the food with the idea of serving the divine. Who is going to eat? Divine is going to eat. I mean, it may look like, okay, this is all conventional story, Shabri story and all that, but look at Mother's, one of her prayers. So the last prayer before she leaves Japan. And she has given a whole comment on this prayer. A very interesting story background to it. But the prayer runs like this: since man refused the meal that I had prepared for him, I have offered it back to thee, O Lord. And you came and sat at the table graciously and received it with joy. Just imagine to prepare food with this idea that I am giving it to the divine. So it changes our entire outlook, in-look, the way we deal with this world completely. So this offering of all we are, all we do, surrender is an effort in its own right. Sri Aurobindo speaks about it. Even the baby cat, he spoke about the baby cat. Sri Ramakrishna spoke about it. The mother speaks about it. Even just to be with the mother cat and let it take us around wherever it takes. There is a trust implied that, well, you are taking me through all these situations and circumstances. You know best. So all these are part of these inner psychological efforts. When life offers itself, people often say that, what is the best prayer? To serve the divine is the prayer of the body. Our life should become a prayer. Whole life, from morning till night, it should become a prayer, and from night till morning, it should become a prayer. It should be such a prayer that at night, whatever happens, our spontaneous impulse is to call the mother. So it becomes a prayer. Calling the divine becomes a prayer. So this is one kind of effort at different levels, psychological effort of offering. But deep inside, there is another effort, which is the spiritual effort. And the spiritual effort is what Sri Aurobindo reminds us. Aspiration, rejection, surrender. Aspiration is very deep inside, because most of the time we are not even aware. We may think that, okay, there is a conference going on and we are going to attend the conference. But there is something deep inside which is aspiring. We are not aware because we are not in contact with it. It is seeking something We are not conscious. It's the innermost sanctum sanctorum where this flame is burning. So even, as I said in the morning, to guard faith like a priceless treasure, it's an effort. And there are several, each stage has its own effort. When the seed of the divine is sown into the human consciousness, it must be watered with divine love. The psychic being in us must be given its own food. When we read Mother and Sri Aurobindo, when we take their name, it is like food to that psychic being. When nature, the furrowing process through which the soil is tilled in human nature, when all our notions go topsy-turvy, it's also a preparation. And then when the seed starts coming out as a sprout, we have to ensure that animals don't come and eat it away. So wise farmers put a fence. We think it's all okay, it doesn't matter whom we meet, what we do. Chacha ke bete ka shadi hai, somebody is married, some party, social gathering, it's we are part of society. So we must conform to it. Well, we have to make a choice. Because Mother says sometimes she has seen very promising people who lost because of the company they kept. So much which is not against friendship. Friendship is beautiful. But what is important is to know whom we should be friends with. So goodwill for all should be there without a doubt about it. Even for somebody who is harming us, we should be full of goodwill. Because after all, divine is working in such a person also. We may wrestle if necessary. If nature has or destiny has put us onto a point where the person is standing against me, and I often give this example that in the war scenario, being from the Air Force background, military background, that the sentinel who stands opposite the soldier on the other side has no enmity. He is not fighting for hatred. He is fighting because he needs to preserve the borders, the sanctity and the security of his own civilization. So it's important for him, but it doesn't mean there is hatred and anger and all that. So this is how, even with everybody, we should have goodwill. But friendship is not something which can be with anyone and everyone. All kinds of things. Probably, I don't know how it is here, but in India, the great fat Indian wedding and celebrations, and here it's probably partying and things like that. I don't know. I have been out of touch with all these things for decades. I really don't know. But I'm just saying that, things where we lose. He says, sometimes in one night one loses much that one has gained. There are robbers of the deeps. Their description is given in Savitri and also in Secret of the Vedas, that there are robbers who come and steal because they know here is the treasure. And they know, they have their own mechanism of finding out where is the gold hidden, where is the locker. And many times fifth row columnist who will walk with us, and they are stealing and robbing. Now this not to make ourselves frightened, because the divine is with us, just to exercise basic care and caution. This is a treasure. One doesn't just let go of this treasure just like that. Of course, the divine is infinite, His love, He will give us whatever, and necessary, but from our side. So vigilance is part of the effort, and a very important effort. Sincerity is so important. Why is sincerity important? Because it is sincerity, she says, opens the door. So we may go at the door. There's those Indiana Jones movies, one of them was where the cup of Christ, and only to a child it can be given. Why? Because the child doesn't want the cup for some personal profit or benefit. So why am I seeking the divine? Is it out of ambition? Is it out of something else? Etc., etc. Sincerity means one is to be transparent before the divine. One, it means that. Not to hide things that are inside. If we have ambition, we should tell the divine, take away this thorn from the flesh. But not to go there and say, see, I am wearing a nice dhoti. I hope you are impressed. I am a holy man. Look at the color of my dress. He will say, I am seeing the color of your heart. It's not too bright. So this is about this inner contact. The sincerity is about whether what I am seeking, I am genuinely seeking. Or is it just a facade? Is it that I want the divine for some external gains. So all these and many more aspects, I already spoke about the inner attitudes of endurance, perseverance. Victory comes to the most persevering. Sometimes the best thing is held back for us till the end. Because if it came very early, probably we'll lose our heads. So the divine knows when to give, when not to give. So aspiration, rejection of all that keeps us away from the divine. There is no moral, ethical rule here, but a very wide formula. Whatever will keep us away. The Gita even goes on to say, stay away from the company of those who are hostile to the divine, or those who inflict doubts, especially when as I said, the tree is a sapling, it's growing. Stay away from the storms of passion which may just overthrow. So these are not rules given simply so that we can let this flame grow beautifully and brighter. Be in the company of that which will help this flame to grow. And of this company, human beings are be careful. And then, of course, along with rejection comes surrender. So this is the triple effort that must go on inside us. Aspiration for the divine, not to be mixed with ambition and as he says, if your faith and aspiration are mixed with ambition, it's a low and smoke-obscured flame that cannot lift upwards to heaven. Similarly, rejection at all these levels. Why? Because it's too clear to receive the divine. We are so full of our own ideas, thoughts. If we were once to understand that He who stands before us and what wisdom that He has poured through these words, if we can just receive them with that attitude, it will be so wonderful. And it never makes us lose. The mother says, true surrender enlarges you. It aggrandizes you. Why? Because it releases the divine possibilities inside us. That's what the divine does. But this surrender has to be out of one's own free will. One thing that the divine doesn't deal with is coercion and forcing. He may do it to somebody whom he says, okay, this fellow is all mine, but he doesn't force. Surrender is to be done in one's own free choice. So this is the effort, and as I said, all this effort ultimately is only to prepare ourselves for the grace. And when we reach a point when, as I said, the person where we were going to go is sitting in the car, then GPS stops. It may mislead us, but he knows the way. All this effort is ultimately to be able to receive the grace. Otherwise, a little touch and the whole system cannot bear. People ask the mother. That mother often, sometimes people go mad, and she said it's because of vanity in the nature, and people get possessed. And she said, I have seen it, by the way. But please, it can happen, it may not happen. But I have seen at least a few instances where things which were seemingly impossible suddenly turned completely, as if vanished like this. So, when she says, I have driven away, chased away these things, but people call them back. So, they call it back. So, that's why this effort is necessary. That when these things go away, we don't call it back to our old self. Because the moment it goes away, many times people think it's because of me, my own effort. So, she says, if you look at this grace which is working all the time, saving us in so many ways from so many things, then there is only one thing that human consciousness, one response it gives is gratitude. So I think if we can reach that state where we can be in a state of constant gratitude toward the divine, gratitude for all that we call as good, gratitude for all that we call as bad or unpleasant, gratitude for all the ordeals of the way, as she says, are the shortest way to lead you to the divine, gratitude for everything. And then we start opening to this marvelous grace and its direct action. I'll close with one little anecdote. In the ashram has a old people facility. Now there are two facilities, Desiree and Care. So earlier this was Care. So there used to be a person always happy, elderly man in his 80s, and always smiling, always cheerful, Govind Bhai. So whenever we would go to him, he would have written something from Mother and Shri Aurobindo and give it to all the doctors. So, and whenever we asked him, Govind bhai, how are you? We asked everybody and somebody will say, I have this problem, I have that problem. He would say, that's something I've learned from him. I owe it to him. He would say, all grace, the grace, all will by the grace. So one day I asked him, and I knew, but I wanted to hear from him. And he remembered, and it's there in one of Mother's writings, that see, we think that things are happening because of my effort. And the moment say everything is fine, there are forces, oh, you really believe? You have done it. You are the author of this plot. But when we say grace, we have automatically involved that protection, that which is the real cause, real origin of everything. So to invoke the grace in everyday life, there is no better way than gratitude. I may say that all our life hangs between gratitude and grace. And very difficult to say what comes first. Of course, grace comes first. And as we grow closer and closer to the divine, we live in an overwhelming sense of the presence of the divine grace. If you are able to recognize the divine grace, and if there is a spontaneous gratitude in the heart, that means the master whom we are going to meet is already there with us. So with this, I'll close. We have 5 minutes. If there is any question, I'll be happy to respond.
Look, you talked about consecration, right? When you are working. So when you are working for a corporation, we know that it's all about profit and loss, right? How can we take that as a divine work?
Yes, so when we work in a corporate, we'll be working somewhere, and there would be always, each organization will have its own goal. So for instance, in military, okay, the goal may be good, but ultimately it's again for the defense force. In corporate, it would be to make money. Let them do what they want. As far as I am concerned, this work for me is an expression of the divine. It should be the divine who should express through me. Let me take that example, that there is a man sitting on the desk of a bank, So banks are also, again, it's ultimately we know what it is about. It's not, it's all about ultimately money in the larger sense. But there is a person who sitting there takes it that this is the work given to me by the mother, and I must execute it to my own perfection. Now, you see, that was the difference. We must have heard about R.K. Talwar. He became the governor of RBI, Reserve Bank of India. So he was a devotee of the mother, and when one day, because he rubbed the then establishment on the wrong side, I need not go into the details. So a message was sent to him that you better resign. So he resigned. No qualms. So people asked him, oh, we are so sorry you have to resign. He said, no, I know, it's good. Now mother is calling. Here also I was working for her. Now also she is calling me and I am working for her. He went and lived in the ashram for the rest of his life. And he opened a consultancy, and all the money that he would get, he would offer for the mother's work. So it doesn't matter what the organization is working for. It is our state. We have stories where a butcher turns to we have a story in Mahabharata where Krishna tells Arjuna, go and learn from the butcher. He said, butcher? Yes. Why? Because he is living in that state of remembrance of the divine even while he is doing a gory act. So again and again, it's not the action, it's not the organization, it's the inner motive and attitude. So before we start the work, we can sit there, mother, today you have made me sit here. But it means we'll be completely unattached from the results, all this nishkam karma, whether I get a promotion, whether I get a pay hike, all this must go away. Now you have made me sit here, let me be your representative. And who knows, if we do this, the organization may undergo a change. After all, this entire creation has to undergo a change. Who knows that we may be there, that by one man's perfection still can save the world. There are instances where the mother has said that in a group, a catastrophe has been stalled because there was one person who was remembering the divine. So when we are, wherever we are, regardless of this, there is a desk or table, or as I said, we are standing probably at the door. And if we can take it that when everybody who comes here, let's say standing on the door, I'm taking an extreme example, and everybody who comes is the divine whom we are welcoming into this doorway, who knows, very silently an occult action takes place. So this is the matrix in which we should enter and work and offer that work to the divine and all the riches that come from it. We should know that it belongs to the divine. So how to use it rightly for beauty, for perfection, for the divine work in 100 ways. We'll be guided once we have the aspiration. Rather than just spending it only on, expanding my, I don't want to be ungenerous, my outer life. So this is how we should be living in any space. And any work can become a divine work if we do it with the right inner attitude. The right inner attitude is not to be focused on the results in terms of how it is going to benefit me. To do the work well, with an eye on success, with perfection, and as an offering to the divine. Now, the only catch is, what if the company pushes me to get profits by ways and means that are wrong? That's the only catch that comes here. Well, I must still do what is true and beautiful. Maybe I may lose that job. I know people who have gone that way and gave that example of Talwar. To stay with what we believe to be true and beautiful. For instance, if somebody expects that I tell a lie in a corporate sector, it's very common. So some people either take that stand that I'm going to now fight the organization. But to be like a river, I am there, and when somebody asks me, I would not tell a lie. At least, why am I trying to do it? To please someone, to maybe take that profit which is going to come to me. Now that's where the sacrifice comes in. So I will refuse to do that. And yet, there are ways and means to do a lot more, keeping that aside. If the company is not happy, tells me either change your ways or go your way, and go your way. If you ask me, go our way. Because the little story of Esau and Jacob, never to sell the soul for a pot of porridge. It is so true. Because that price is too much. It will weigh heavy upon us. It should not be done with a rigid attitude of, I am going to fight you. No, it's okay. I have my way and she will find the way. All who have gone this way. And for this very reason, you see why places like ashram or will be created, for this very reason. So that we don't have to undergo this kind of because the world is not ready for the divine. It doesn't want the divine. It doesn't seek the divine. It has everything except the divine. Divine is there, but it has created everything for everything except the divine. So there have to be few who stand for what is true, beautiful, good, Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. That's the secular way to put it. And the religious way is, spiritual way is the divine. Stand by those values. Doesn't matter how he inspires, how she inspires. Yes.
How to have
How to have?
So I'm struggling with mastering equanimity, unconsciousness, egocentrism. It's okay. Everything well here. Take your hand
Yeah.
How to learn to have sense of humor and patience. They say it takes 12 years for this monkey mind to get a little bit of stability.
Sense of humor.
Or have that heroic warrior kind of attitude.
Just look at life and you will develop abundant sense of humor. It's so amusing to see the things we value, to see humanity walking topsy-turvy on its head, to see calling ignorance knowledge. There was a man called Benjamin Jowett, as the limerick goes. He was a graduate from Balliol College. He said, all that is knowledge, I know it. And what I do not know is not knowledge. Look at this word. Don't you feel amused? Shut in prison boxes. When you come in contact with the divine, it's not just humor, it's laughter. Mother says, laugh with the divine. And for that she gives a recipe also. She says, we must carefully avoid people who are very serious and virtuous, because they think virtue is perfection. And they will end up reducing the whole world, by one particular virtue. So avoid the company of those who are very serious. All who have been with the divine from the days of Buddha and beyond, Krishna always smiling to Sri Aurobindo and the mother. You see, when you hear mother's conversation, one thing which you miss in the writing is the laughter. Sometimes the giggle of a child. Laughter. Have you seen when you read the conversation, it'll say, laughter, mother laughs. And when you hear that giggle of a child, it's so amazing. So it comes by contact with the divine, because divine has a wonderful sense of humor. Otherwise he would not have created this world. Okay? And all the time, as I said, in Kurukshetra he is giving Gita. He is not telling Arjuna, I have an ashram there, you come there, pay $1,000 and I'll give you a crash course on what is God. Surely there were places like that. $1,000 course. And Arjuna quietly, Krishna gives him quietly. So he has a sense of humor. Don't you see? Gita is sense of humor. One basic practice is equanimity. Equanimity. And even before that, stepping back, what is there really in this world worth feeling sad or tormented about? I mean, of course, we get attached, so we think this is me and mine. But really, when we look at it from the larger perspective, always widen the perspective. When we become wide, one of the remedies when we are tormented, the mother says that contemplate the boundlessness of space and the endlessness of time. And this moment will look like a little fraction. Oh life, this too shall pass away. And just hold on to the divine. There are moments, and this is, we all go through all kinds of things. Mother speaks about, there's a beautiful passage in volume 2, to know how to suffer. To know that all these things are waves that will pass away. Learn to stand back and step back and see things. And this doesn't mean blindness, but it's simply to know that, also to know that there is a divine wisdom at work in creation. It knows its way. One who has made this world is ever its Lord. Our errors are his steps upon the way. He works through the hard vicissitudes of our lives. He works through the hard breath of battle and toil. He works through our sins, our sorrows, and our tears. His knowledge overrules our nescience. Whatever the appearance, we must bear. When nothing we can see but drift and bail, a mighty guidance leads us still through all. After we have served this great divided world, God's bliss and oneness are our inborn right. If we take this attitude that there is a guidance in creation, then there will be never a cause for ultimate worry. Momentary worries may come. But if we take it that this world is all randomness and chance, and then why worry? What is there to worry about when you don't even have something which you can call as your own true self? So either which way we take it. If there is divine in creation, there is nothing to worry. If there is no divine, what's the point of worrying? Okay, that attitude. Equanimity. Equanimity is the watchword. In all states, physically, emotionally, psychologically, things will come. They will touch us for a while, but know that they will pass away. Know that you are held by the Divine Mother. She never abandons the child. Know that when she holds us, there is no difficulty so formidable. The greatest difficulty is we ourselves, nuttiest cases, which will not ultimately yield to her transforming touch. That's why faith is so important. nurture faith, ask for faith, grow in faith, live with faith. As is a man's faith, so does he become. The Gita. Okay. Yes, please.
So I can feel God's grace and God's presence everywhere, but I want to see Him. I want to listen to His voice.
Oh.
Like, how does He speak? So,
How to hear the voice of God?
yeah, so why doesn't the God reveal?
That question I said in the morning. 10-minute sun gazing practice at your own risk. So initially this question was asked by Arjuna also. So Shri Krishna says, see, you can't behold this ultimate form. That only with Divya Drishti, which is a long process, because we can't behold it. A little pressure and we grow cranky, wonky and wobbly. Okay, so it's His mercy that He doesn't just suddenly, and He's not in the business of showing off. See, I am God. Look at this wonderful light. Are you impressed? He couldn't care less. So, it's His mercy that He doesn't reveal like that. This is a long preparation. But Shri Krishna says something very interesting to Arjuna. He says, wherever you see an abundance of manifestation of something divine, you know it to be myself. So in nature, that's how what was unfortunately later on told as nature worship. Where did it come from? So he says, Nago mein main Vasuki hu, I am Vasuki among the great serpents. So imagine that. Then he says that among the rivers, among men of chivalry and paurush is very difficult to, I don't know, what would be the English word for paurush? Chivalry probably or something more than that. He says, I am Ram. So there are humans. That's how human beings have, in India there is the custom of the human magnate, the guru, the deity. These are all manifestations of the divine. When you look at a mountain, Himalayas, you are filled with awe. And that time, one can send a heart full of prayer, O unseen Shiva who dwells upon its abode. So all these will go into the feeding till one day we are ready to see God. And that is not easy. Why? Because there is a little poem of Tagore. With that probably we can stop, because there is another. He says, I'll say a little bit in Bengali, then translate in English. Jaket, is there anybody who knows Bengali? Oh no. So you will catch all my wrong nuances. Anyways, please bear with me, okay? So that's why I wanted to know. So, Jake tumi bahite chaho apar premer bhar. Is that Tagore, I think? Jake tumi bahite chaho apar premer bhar, eke bare sabe tumi ghochaye daotar. Na thake tar मान अपमान, na thake tar dhan, ekla koro tumi akinchan. So basically, I may have missed a word here there. He says that what you do, those whom you want to bear the burden of your universal love, how do you deal with them? He says, whom you want like that, you take away everything from him. Man, pride, fame, apaman. Na thake tar maan apman, na thake dard. He can't even say this money is mine. He will have wealth, but it is at the disposal of something, for the divine work. So na thake tar maan apman, na thake tar dhan. And you make him alone, and akinchan, nothing which he can call as his own. Aniket, that's what is meant in the Anashraya, these words in the Gita. Anashraya, Aniket. Aniket doesn't mean he is living without a house. It means he doesn't own a house. Wherever he goes, that's his house. And imagine if such a person comes to somebody's house and says, this is my house. So, akinchan. And then he says, you keep him onto the road, you put him onto the road, and there is nothing and none to whom he can hold on as support except the divine. So the question is, are we ready for that? There's so many voices. Now we may say, part may say yes, but there are many voices will deny. His prayer rose and sank into the resisting night amid the 1,000 voices that deny. So first he has to remove those 1,000 voices that deny. Before we have the Indraprasth, we must clear the Khandavprasth of all the serpents. So it's a process. But they who have the aspiration will one day find. Don't be adhir, be dhira. Tamatmastham yenu pashyanti dhira. He will reveal in dreams, in messages, one will hear. Of course, he doesn't hold conversations like conversations with God. No, when all the voices and noises of the world have settled, and we are no more attracted towards them, then he speaks, because he is a bit shy by temperament and nature. He doesn't push, he doesn't thunder. Sometimes he may do that, but generally he is a very quiet fellow. Very loving, very quiet, whispers rather than imposes. You do this, this is my commandment. He doesn't do like that, thank God. So we have to learn to tune to his voice. And for that we have to learn to detune to all the noises and voices in the world. We will close with where we started. This light comes not by struggle or by thought. In the mind's silence, the transcendent acts, and the hushed heart hears the unuttered word. Okay, namaste.